Hello and welcome to the Prime Reckoning. I'm Julie and this is a channel for women over 50. So I told y'all I was going to get my hair done. I obviously did. It's really different. Holy cow. I have not been this blonde for a long time, y'all. But I used to be this blonde and I wanted to be this blonde again. So I did it. Also lost so much of the length, but honestly, it feels fantastic to have all that extra kind of out of the way and a whole lot lighter. So I'm enjoying it. I'm not 100% thrilled with the cut. She didn't really layer the front much. The back is more layered, but it is what it is. So, but overall, I like it. So came out well. I may get some low lights next time I go in because it is kind of all the really light. There's a little bit of gold, kind of, you can see a little bit there in the back. So I might get some low lights next time I go in. Let me know what you think. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about vertigo in menopause. So I will go over a little bit about what can cause vertigo in menopause and managing vertigo, and then tell you guys a little bit about my story. Again, a reminder, I'm not a medical professional, just pulled some stuff, out of articles, and like I said, I'm going to go through and share my story with you guys. So vertigo is like a real spinning sensation. It's different than dizziness. Dizziness is just kind of off balance. I kind of describe it as maybe you feel like you've had a drink or two when and you kind of off balance, kind of not all there, and kind of brain fog goes along with it, kind of fuzzy head. So that's what I've experienced. I've also experienced the true spinning, which is absolutely terrifying, frankly. Happened to me one time. I was doing the dishes in the kitchen. I had to sit down. I was afraid I was going to fall down. So it can be really unpleasant. And it's another wonderful symptom that can be brought on by menopause. So vertigo can be caused by a lot of things, such as our hormonal fluctuations, altered sensitivity in the inner ear. There's a lot going on in the inner ear. The fluid and the little hairs in there and the crystals and everything, it's really sensitive to any kind of changes that I've found out, and can cause issues pretty easily. It can be caused by anxiety, can be caused by formation of larger crystals in the ear, Meniere's disease, vestibular migraine, increased susceptibility to inflammatory conditions, cardiovascular issues, and medication side effects, among other things. Again, these are just what was listed in the article that I read. And it talked a little bit about managing vertigo. So you definitely want to talk to your doctor if you're experiencing vertigo. And there are several types of doctors that deal with vertigo. Over the years, I had an ear, nose, and throat specialist and also a neurologist work with my vertigo. So some vertigo can be managed with medications. There's also rehab therapy. I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. They mentioned surgery. I don't know. Again, you'd have to talk to your doctor about that. I don't know what kind of surgery that would be exactly. So a little bit about my story. I call it, I guess, dizziness that started in my 20s, y'all. It was a particularly stressful time in my marriage, and the dizziness just came from out of nowhere. It hit me one day and I could not even walk. I couldn't walk for like a week. I had just started a new job. Fortunately, my boss at the time let me take some time off, even though I didn't have any on the books. She said, you just, pay it back later. And it was difficult to get through. So of course I went to the doctor. I think I saw my PCP, who sent me to an ear, nose, and throat doctor. The ear, nose, and throat doctor did extensive tests on me, like three times. I went through the whole series of all sorts of tests. I was referred to a neurologist at one point. They did an MRI to make sure there wasn't any tumors or anything going on in my brain. And all these tests and all these doctors could never find a cause. I did some studying back then, and the internet wasn't a big thing when we were in our 20s, y'all. It was hard to find information. I did find a support group, people talking about not being able to be diagnosed, not being able to be cured. So it's really frustrating. The thought has occurred to me to maybe get testing done again, because I know things change, especially 35 years ago. Tests may be different now, but I found, and I was told by the neurologist, that dizziness and vertigo are very, very difficult to diagnose. So never figured out what was causing mine. Fortunately, they didn't find any problems. But I kind of wish they had, and kind of wish I had some sort of problem that could be treated somehow, but that wasn't the case for me. So I did decide to do the therapy. Most of it didn't help me very much, frankly, but one piece of it helped me a lot. The therapist told me that I had to ignore what my brain was telling me, because my brain was telling me that my body was like this, right? I had to ignore what my brain was telling me and focus on my muscles. The muscles, particularly in your legs and your feet, will tell you if you're standing up straight. If you lean one direction or another direction, you're going to feel it in those muscles. So you really kind of have to put your faith in those muscles and listen to what they're telling you, and kind of ignore what your brain is telling you. It's difficult to learn, but I did learn it. It is frightening at times. My dizziness is worse in really big open spaces, like, let's say, a mall. Nobody has malls anymore, I guess, but a mall or an airport, a large space with a shiny white floor is terrible. Glass, mirrors. So again, like in a mall with a lot of stores, or an airport with glass or mirrors hung up, make my vertigo much worse. Escalators absolutely terrify me. I try to avoid. I can do a short escalator, but the really long ones in the airports, 5-story escalators, and they just absolutely terrify me. So I try to avoid escalators like the plague. If I can avoid them for whatever reason, like in an airport, I'll have somebody stand right in front of me so I can focus on that person being still and not the moving of the escalator. And I definitely don't want to, if I'm going down the escalator, I definitely don't want to look down. That freaks me out. And I take elevators when I can. Elevators are usually available. Sometimes you just have to wait a really long time to get in an elevator, but it is what it is. Although I'm not a really big fan of elevators either. I have so many nightmares, y'all, of elevators falling, and having to get in these really rickety elevators that are really tight and scary. And I don't like either option. I think the entire world should be on one floor. But that's not going to happen. So, I also have to be really careful on ladders. I do go up ladders. I have to go up ladders because I have to, you have to do things on ladders around your house, changing light bulbs or getting into your attic, whatever's going on. You can't always avoid ladders, but I am really careful. I make sure to anchor myself with one arm, like I'll wrap one arm around the ladder and then kind of work with my other arm so that if I do get dizzy, I'm not going to fall off that ladder. So I have learned how to do that. I also avoid edges of things. So for example, if I'm up out in on a hiking trail or something, I won't walk right up to the edge of the cliff. That would freak me out. I don't like to really go to the edge of I don't mind if there's a barrier there. If there's a window, I can walk up to the edge and kind of look out the window. But if there's nothing there, I don't want to walk up to the edge of something where there's a drop off. That really, really freaks me out. So over the years, the dizziness has become a little bit better, maybe, or maybe I'm just used to it, kind of always being there in the background. And like I said, I do experience real spinning vertigo, which is where you feel like the world's spinning around you. And again, that is terrifying. Fortunately, that has never happened to me while I'm driving, although I have had kind of dizziness while I'm driving. If I get dizzy when I'm driving, it's usually when I'm on the interstate, so I'll pull off the interstate, or I'll kind of get over in the right lane and slow down, and so I have an exit if I need to pull over. I haven't needed to pull over, but I like to keep the option open. I don't want to be right in the middle of the interstate, especially a big interstate where there's 8 or 9, 10 lanes, something crazy like that. But I haven't had the spinning vertigo when I'm driving, which is good. I also know that there are certain movements that I can make when I'm driving that make my dizziness worse, so I stopped doing those. So, like I said, it's difficult if you can't get a diagnosis. You kind of have to learn to live with it. That's what I've had to do, but I've been living with it for 35 years. It sucks, but I'm still here. So that's my story. I would love to hear yours if you experience any dizziness or vertigo, either with your menopause or before then. I'd like to hear about it. Here comes Jack. This is my beautiful Meeser, Jackson. Hi, buddy. Say a quick hi. And then he's off to do his scratching thing. My cats love my office chair. It's become their favorite space in this room. So they're so funny. So anyway, like I said, share your experiences in the comments below. Love to hear about them. So let's move on to our Badass Woman of the Week. This week I have chosen Frances Oldham Kelsey. From 1930 to 1931, Frances attended Victoria College, now University of Victoria, and then enrolled at McGill University, where she received both a Bachelor of Science and a Master of Science in Pharmacology. Encouraged by one of her professors, she wrote to E.M.K. Geeling, M.D., a noted researcher who was starting up a new pharmacology department at the University of Chicago, asking for a position doing graduate work. Geeling, unaware of the spelling conventions with respect to Frances with an I and Frances with an E, offered the position to her while addressing her as Mr. Oldham. She accepted it while correcting the mistake by putting Miss in brackets while writing the reply. She started work in 1936. During her second year, Geeling was retained by the FDA to research unusual deaths related to elixir sulfanilamide. Kelsey assisted on this research program, which showed that the 107 deaths were caused by the use of a glycol, dilethylene glycol as a solvent. At that time, there was no law available to prosecute those who sold poison as medicine, and Kelsey observed the need to work around incomplete regulation. The next year, the U.S. Congress passed the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938. That same year, she completed her studies and received a PhD in pharmacology, the first woman to do so. Working with Geeling led to her interest in drugs that cause birth defects. She learned about the mechanism by which birth defects occur. Upon completing her PhD, she joined the University of Chicago faculty. Like many other pharmacologists, she was looking for a synthetic cure for malaria. As a result of these studies, she learned that some drugs are able to pass through the placental barrier. One of her first assignments at the FDA was to review an application for the drug thalidomide as a tranquilizer and painkiller with specific indications to prescribe the drug to pregnant women for morning sickness. Although it had been previously approved in Canada and more than 20 European and African countries, she withheld approval for the drug and requested to see clinical trial information. At the time, the FDA could only withhold approval for 60 days at a time, so she continuously requested further information from the company every 60 days for over a year. Her initial reason for doing this was that the testimonials supplied by the company contained no scientific methodology, and she recognized their authors as having published suspicious articles in the past. In December of 1960, Leslie Florence published a letter in the British Medical Journal connecting the drug to neurological symptoms. Kelsey saw this letter and added Florence's observed symptoms to her ongoing data requests. The unexpected neurological effects caused her to recall her earlier work on the mechanism of birth defects, so she was also requested animal studies to demonstrate the drug would not be harmful to the fetus. In fact, the manufacturer had reportedly discovered birth defects when the drug was tested on rats, but did not report this finding. Kelsey was instead sent misleading partial data suggesting the product was safe for pregnant women. Despite the fact that the drug was already widely used in Europe and elsewhere, Kelsey remained suspicious and scrutinized this data with concern and skepticism. As 1960 turned to 61, Kelsey's continual requests for more information incurred the ire of her contact at the manufacturer, who insisted on speeding up the approval process and attempted to escalate the application, but Kelsey's superiors at the FDA stood by her. Kelsey's insistence that the drug should be fully tested prior to approval was vindicated in November 1961 when the births of deformed infants in Europe were linked to ingestion of the drug during pregnancy. Researchers discovered that the drug crossed the placental barrier and caused serious birth defects. In March of 62, after distributing experimental tablets to tens of thousands of patients without approval, with 17 malformed births confirmed and dozens more suspected, the manufacturer at last withdrew their FDA application. Kelsey was hailed on the front page of the Washington Post as a heroine for averting a large-scale tragedy in the U.S. Morton Mints, the birth of hundreds or indeed thousands of armless and legless children. Kelsey insisted that her assistants, as well as her FDA superiors who backed her strong stance, deserved credit as well. The narrative of Kelsey's persistence was used to help pass rigorous drug approval regulation in 1962. As a result of her blocking American approval of this drug, Kelsey was awarded the President's Award for Distinguished Federal Civilian Service by John F. Kennedy in August of 1962. So that is our amazing badass woman of the week. So I want to move on to my product of the day. A lot of people ask me about my fingernails and what I use on my nails. You gonna join us, Jack? Okay, bud. Keep going. Oh, I know. So as I've gotten older, I just really dislike nail polish. I mean, I have some great polishes. Um, but as y'all know, they smell horrible. You put the polish on and then you have to sit there and sit there and sit there and wait for it to dry. Several coats, bottom coat, top coat, all that mess. And then it seems for me like, I'll have my polish on for a day or two and it'll start chipping. And then I've got to refresh it or remove it and redo it. It seemed to kind of be a pain. I didn't mind when I was younger, but as we get older, our tolerance for this stuff just goes down, down, down. So I started using nail wraps. And this is one of the wraps that I use. As you can see, there are a few sizes. You can find the ones that fit your nails in particular. I think there's like 4 extra on each side. I guess I could count them. It'd be too much work. And you can cut them down to size before you put them on your nails. It takes a couple of applications to get really good at it, but you can cut them down to size for your particular nails. And you just slap them on your nails and then you file off the extra. And I do sometimes put a top coat on these because sometimes they wear down, especially on the tips. I use my nails for little tools all the time, so the tips can wear down. But I usually have a set last me a little bit over a week. A lot of ladies that are on the Facebook group for this particular brand say they last 2 weeks or longer. I've never had that happen, but like I said, they last a week and a little bit, and that's usually about the time I'm sick of them and ready to change them. They have tons of designs, tons of wraps. I like the glitter ones, which these are a silver glitter. Oops, sorry. And the glitter ones are really forgiving. They hide a lot of as I get older, I have a lot of lumps and bumps and stuff in my nails. And the glitters really hide those, so those are great. Excuse me. The brand that I use the most is called Lily and Fox. I'll link them down below. And for each set of wraps, so for this particular one, it's $3. And that includes shipping. So super, super cheap. Really easy to use. Like I said, they have so many designs. They have all the holidays, and this is a really springy design. The little butterflies on here. They have spring designs, they have winter designs, they have all kinds of stuff, and every color of the rainbow, mixed colors. Just I love them. Like I said, they're easy. Even if I do have to put a top coat on. Top coat's not as, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. You don't have to worry about the top coat drying as much as like a regular coat, because if it smudges a little bit with a clear top coat, you really can't tell. And it dries fairly quickly. So I do like them a lot. I have used a couple of Nail Fox ones. They're pretty as well. They have some different designs. Don't hold up quite as well as the Lily and Fox ones, and I know the Lily and Fox does have an excellent customer service team. So if there's a problem with one of your wraps, they will immediately send you a coupon code for a free set of wraps to replace the ones that you had a problem with. So they really do a good job with that. So that is all I have for you today. Please take a minute to like and subscribe. I'm trying to grow my channel, so every little like and subscribe helps, and it's free for you. Really helps me out. Also, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I will link all those things in the description box below. I hope everybody has a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.